There'll be food and drink and ghosts.
You heard Mr. Vincent Price correctly. Around these parts, there will be food, drink, and ghosts. To be honest, that's generally how I live my life. So today, I kind of wanted to follow suit and just ramble on about ghosts, if you couldn't guess. Haunted houses, the things that go bump in the night. Ooh. But first, before any of that, as usual, I want to thank you for joining me today during my rambling session that is meant to keep you, the listener, company, and hope that all is well in the world. Well as it can be. I know that it's not well, but all we can do is wake up every day and try our damn best. So I hope you're doing all right. I'm doing okay. I'm still waking up with some coffee, and I wanted to spend my morning here with you. So let's get to the spooky shit on today's episode of The Funhouse. Ghosts have been a subject of fascination and fear for thousands of years. They have been featured in myths, legends, and folklore and popular culture across various cultures and time periods. The concept of ghosts and hauntings has captured our imagination and curiosity, leading us to explore the history and origins of these mysterious entities. Today we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive, take a look at the history of ghosts from ancient myths to the modern legends. Learning about different various mythologies has always been one of my personal favorite topics. It's something I indulge myself in quite a bit. I'm not going to stray too far from that for now. However, I will say that as far as ancient myths and beliefs go regarding ghosts, the concept of them can be traced back to ancient civilizations where people believed that spirits of the dead continue to exist in some form of the afterlife or from after death. In many ancient cultures, ghosts were considered to be benevolent or malevolent spirits that could interact with the living world. For example, in ancient Greek mythology, ghosts were believed to be the spirits of the deceased who had not yet moved on to the afterlife. Now, the ancient Egyptians here, they're a big one. The ancient Egyptians also believed in ghosts, and the funerary practices were designed to help guide the deceased to the afterlife. That was a big part of their cultures, was just preparing for the plane of existence after their time here in the mortal plane. Now, in ancient China, the beliefs in ghosts was closely led to ancestral worship. Ancestors were revered and honored through the elaborate ceremonies and rituals, and it was believed that their spirits could return to the world of the living to help them or harm their descendants. In Japan, the concept of ghosts was similarly tied to the ancestral worship, and the spirits of the dead were often believed to bring good luck or misfortune to the living. And I'm sure, sitting here listening to this, anyone, I mean, you ask anyone, generally, okay, so, maybe I shouldn't say anyone, but there's definitely a story of some sort or an experience that someone has had that has at least made them question the possibility of there being ghosts of some sort, whether it's more of a philosophical ghost, like it's a part of your past that you can't escape, a haunting of something that you dwell on, or a haunting of visions you've had, or emotions you can't shake, or a tormentor of some sort that isn't necessarily like an actual physical entity or someone or something that hasn't moved on, but rather a struggle you're having that has manifested itself into some kind of psychological projection. That's kind of where I have always personally stood on the topic. Now, I believe I've said before in an earlier episode that I absolutely want to believe all of this. All of it. I mean, the supernatural, the paranormal. It's not that I don't. I'm a lot like Agent Fox Mulder in from the X-Files in that regard, where I want to believe. I absolutely do. Now, when saying I want to believe, usually that's associated with like aliens and stuff, and I promise I'm going to get into that another episode. I'm going to dedicate a whole segment to it. But like when I was little and I had found out that like the movie monsters and stuff like that weren't real, as my father would reassure me, watching different horror movies or various other forms of creature features and whatnot. I always felt bad about that. I wanted them to be real, and I had my own personal reasons for it. Some of the things I know I might be going a little off topic here, but some of the things that or one of the main reasons why I wanted them to be real was so that I could help comfort them. I know that sounds silly, and I was just a kid at the time, but creatures like ghosts and well, ghosts especially, because when you see a scary spirit in a movie or in a any kind of depiction where they're a hostile entity, they're gonna hurt the family, they're gonna come after you, they're gonna haunt your dreams, they're gonna terrify you in any way that they can. I always felt bad. And I think maybe one of the reasons why I did was because of the movie Beetlejuice. Because you see the two main characters and they're just so sweet and humble. And mind you, like I was just a little kid when I drew these conclusions. So, but I I started to interpret other ghosts like maybe they're just them, or like them. Like maybe they were entities that lost their lives too early and they're scared, they're panicking, like you're in their house, and I maybe they're just humble, and what they really or needed rather was someone to kind of cling to, so someone to hear them out and sympathize with their their newfound problems. But ghosts, I have always believed, are a representation or a manifestation of what you project out into the world. So if for instance, if let's say you whether physically or mentally you go to a place and it's like, this place is haunted, it's scary, it's spooky, I think perhaps depending on your psychology, you'll interpret what that could mean. So if you're in a place and you're doing okay, like you're projecting, whether it's what's the word I'm looking for, benevolence around you, perhaps you'll interpret the information that this place is haunted to be like, oh, maybe the spirits aren't hostile, maybe they're just misunderstood. You'll have more of like an optimistic approach to these things. Maybe if you're someone who's used to, unfortunately, I mean, I realize this might be an extreme topic, but if you're someone who's been abused, if you're someone who is psychologically all over the place, like you could easily and readily accept that information could be interpreted as a hostile presence around you, like some like the Babadook, like or it's just interpreting it in a psychological, emotional, and spiritual level, and it reflecting kind of where you yourself stand as a person, where you how you receive empathy, how you project empathy, your life story. Like I believe that ghosts, whether in a literal sense or a spiritual sense, will always be a reflection of the case of nature versus nurture. Like some people, they don't believe in them at all. Some people, maybe they don't need to believe in ghosts. Maybe some people are just so well endowed that they they think the whole thing's silly, and that's fine. But in some way, shape, or form, something is going to haunt you sooner or later, whether it's an actual ghost of the spirit of Saint Jezebel from some Victorian era castle or spooky house, and or maybe it's something that you yourself has conjured up. Maybe it's a projection of your psychology that you can't shake, and it has manifested itself into some sort of, whether it be an actual tormentor or an emotion that you can't shake loose, something from your past, something that you, maybe even something that you're worried about from the future, like Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. You know, like the manifestations of all of Ebenezer Scrooge's insecurities and emotions all torment him in the same night. And I mean, that made him a better person. You know, that I mean that story, the Charles Dickens one, might be one of the most profound ghost stories ever written. Um, I would actually argue that it is right next to the Haunting of Hill House, the original novel. I can like ghosts. I've always interpreted, or I've always seen them as more of a, as I've said before, a psychological presence, rather than a literal, like, oh, I'm gonna come out of the walls and get you, like my Saint Jezebel character there from Victorian England. Uh, back in Victorian England, speaking of Charles Dickens, they were some of the kings and queens of the macabre. A lot of our modern interpretations come from the history of the Victorian era because of just how in tune they were with the grotesque and the creepy. And I mean that's when they had, you know, post-mortem photography. That's when that was huge, and they were just obsessed with death in so many different ways. And that's where a lot of our key ghost stories come from, for that reason. A lot of dwelling on what was, and what could be, and what is in front of you. So I have a compilation book, actually. It's just simply called A Thousand Ghost Stories. I got it from Barnes and Noble a long time ago, and it is just a compilation of Victorian era ghost stories. And let me tell you, it is absolutely worth looking into there. But I hope that nothing for you goes bump in the night, or if it does, I hope you're having a good time. So, thank you so much for hanging out today and hearing my rambling about some spooky supernatural shit. I love talking to you guys. This is a wonderful thing, just to be able to philosophize and talk about my areas of comfort. It's good medicine. It's good here being with you. Uh, we're gonna be diving more into different supernatural creatures and ghosts and goblins and blah. So for now, I am going to say auf Wiedersehen, or au revoir, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for hanging out. I love y'all. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bleh.